A 3-year love story crumbled not with a bang, but with a silent, devastating betrayal by the one man thought he could trust the most. His girlfriend, Ji-in, a master of deception, wove a web of lies to hide her deceitful affair, leaving him feeling utterly helpless and alone. But fate, and his grandmother's fiery Kimchi, had a shocking truth in store that turned everything on its head. This is the story of how a taste of home became the key to a man's freedom, proving that some truths are too bold to stay hidden. For Kim Min-Jun, happiness wasn't a grand, abstract idea. It was a tangible collection of small, simple moments that filled his world with warmth. The comfort was in the rich, earthy scent of his grandmother's homemade kimchi, bubbling in its crock in the corner of their shared kitchen. It was in the familiar, comforting weight of his loyal Jindo dog, resting his head on Min-Jun's lap after a long day. Most of all, it was in the sweet, unwavering smile of his girlfriend, Lee Ji-in. For 3 years, their lives had been a perfectly synchronized melody. He saw a future with her, a life as harmonious and full of warmth as the small, sun-drenched apartment they had built into a home. Every shared meal, every late-night conversation, every quiet moment felt like a thread woven into a beautiful, secure tapestry. One evening, that tapestry began to fray. Ji-in came home late, and a subtle, unfamiliar scent drifted in with her. It wasn't her usual light floral perfume, but something sharper, more expensive, mixed with a faint, masculine cologne he didn't recognize. The smell was a dissonant note in their peaceful home, a jarring chord that tightened a knot of unease in Min-Jun's stomach. He tried to dismiss it, to tell himself it was just a strange new fragrance, a scent from a colleague at work. But the feeling lingered, cold and unsettling. Over the next few weeks, the small, unsettling signs accumulated, each one a tiny crack in the foundation of his trust. There were late-night texts that she would quickly read and delete with a furtive glance. Her phone, once a shared space, became a guarded secret, always face down, always within arm's reach. Mysterious business trips suddenly appeared on her schedule, stretching over weekends she had promised to spend with him. The joyful spark in her eyes, the one that used to light up when he talked about their future, was slowly replaced by a growing emotional distance. She was physically present, but mentally miles away. Min-Jun was a man of quiet observation, not dramatic confrontation. He didn't scream or accuse. Instead, he watched, and with each passing day, his heart ached with the silent, terrible realization that the beautiful tapestry of their life together was beginning to unravel. The simple pleasures that once defined his world now felt tainted. The rich aroma of the kimchi still filled the kitchen, but it no longer comforted him. His dog still rested his head on his lap, but the weight felt heavy, a reminder of his own burdened heart. Ji-in's smile was still there, but it was a ghost of its former self, a hollow void where his trust and happiness used to be. A deep, aching pain settled in, a constant low hum of sorrow that he couldn't escape no matter how hard he tried. Min-Jun tried to bridge the growing chasm between them. He attempted to talk to Ji-in, to ask her what was wrong, to understand the source of her sudden distance. But every conversation was a dead end. She'd offer vague, hurried excuses, stress at work, a new demanding project, or simply a need for some space. Her evasiveness was a wall of polished stone, impenetrable and cold, and it only deepened his misery. He was trapped in a suffocating cycle of suspicion and self-doubt, a mental prison of his own making. In the quiet hours of the night, he would lie awake, the same questions echoing in his mind. Was he overreacting? Was his heart simply a fool, imagining shadows where there were none? Was he paranoid, pushing away the woman he loved with his own unfounded fears? The answers never came, and the uncertainty was a slow, agonizing poison. The silence between them, once comfortable and full of unspoken understanding, was now a heavy, oppressive blanket. It was a silence filled with what was unsaid, with what couldn't be asked, and with what he was too afraid to hear. One rainy Tuesday, the facade finally cracked. Ji-eun, her voice a little too cheerful, a little too strained, announced she was going to a team dinner and would be home late. A feeling of profound despair washed over Min-Jun, so strong it felt like a physical blow. He didn't need to ask for details. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that she was lying. The elaborate lie, delivered with a forced smile, was more painful than any truth could have been. He sat alone in their apartment, the rain outside mirroring the tears he couldn't shed. The silence was deafening, amplifying the frantic, irregular rhythm of his heart. The space, once a vibrant haven of shared laughter and quiet joy, now felt like a cold, empty prison. Every object, the matching mugs they had bought, the framed photo of their last vacation, felt like a cruel joke, a reminder of the life he was losing. He considered confronting her, marching down to the office and demanding the truth. But what would that achieve? What would he do when he saw her? He was paralyzed, not just by anger, but by the overwhelming fear of hearing the words he already knew to be true. He felt utterly helpless, unable to fight this betrayal, this slow, quiet destruction of his life. He was fighting a ghost, a presence that was slowly consuming their past, present, and future, leaving nothing but emptiness in its wake. He had no control, no power, just the bitter taste of betrayal and the quiet anguish of waiting for the inevitable end. The next morning, the gray skies of Min-Jun's inner world were momentarily pierced by a familiar, comforting presence. His grandmother, the unwavering matriarch of the family and a renowned kimchi maker, arrived for her weekly visit. She carried with her a large, heavy jar of her famous, extra spicy kimchi. The moment she stepped into the apartment, the air filled with the pungent, bold scent of fermented chili, garlic, and ginger, a scent that had always meant home and unconditional love. Her wrinkled eyes, sharp and wise, immediately noticed the hollow look in his. "You look tired, my boy," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You're a tree without its roots right now. You need to be grounded." She didn't press for details. She didn't need to. Her wisdom was in her observation, not in her questions. She simply set the jar on the counter and began preparing a simple meal of rice and hot soup. "Eat this," she commanded, placing a steaming bowl of rice and a generous portion of kimchi in front of him. "It will burn away your sorrows, make you feel something real again." As Min-Jun took a bite of the fiery dish, a shock of intense heat spread through his mouth, momentarily overpowering the gnawing ache in his chest. The kimchi was a jolt to his system, a fierce and unapologetic flavor that demanded his full attention. As he ate, his grandmother, in her usual matter-of-fact way, began to talk about life and its complexities, her words as pungent and truthful as the kimchi itself. She spoke of the importance of facing things head-on, of how some wounds, like a deep cut, need to be felt fully to heal properly. "You cannot heal a wound you refuse to look at," she said, her voice a low murmur. "And sometimes a painful truth is better than a comfortable lie." Her words weren't a scolding, but a gift of hard-won wisdom. They resonated with him, shaking him out of the paralyzing fog of his self-doubt. "You can't mend a broken plate if you pretend it's whole," she added, her eyes meeting his. In that moment, surrounded by the powerful scent of the kimchi and the unwavering presence of his grandmother, Min-Jun had a moment of profound prasrania, a sudden, clear understanding. He realized his pain wasn't just about Jian's actions. It was about his own inaction, his silent endurance of the slow-burning betrayal. He saw that living in this agonizing limbo of uncertainty was more destructive than any truth, no matter how bitter, could ever be. He was wasting his life waiting for a truth he already knew. His grandmother's kimchi, with its bold, unyielding flavor, had acted as a powerful catalyst. It had cut through the fog of his despair, revealing a path forward. The path was not one of easy answers or a quick fix. It was a path of clarity, of facing the truth and taking a step, however painful, toward healing. The kimchi's fire hadn't burned away his sorrows. It had given him the strength to finally confront them. Armed with a newfound resolve, a quiet strength born from the fiery taste of kimchi and his grandmother's wisdom, Min-Jun finally decided to act. This wasn't about revenge or a dramatic confrontation. It was about seeking the truth for himself, for the sake of his own peace. He needed closure. He needed to turn the ghost haunting his home into a tangible, if painful, reality he could finally face. The silence of the apartment felt different now, no longer oppressive, but purposeful. With a heavy heart, he began to discreetly look through Ji-Yoon's things, his hands still carrying the strong, unmistakable scent of his grandmother's pungent kimchi. It was a strange juxtaposition, the bold, honest aroma of family and tradition against the hidden, secretive items of betrayal. The smell was a reminder of his purpose, a tiny anchor in the storm. His search was methodical, devoid of emotion. He was a man on a mission, and his focus was razor-sharp. He wasn't looking for a confession, he was looking for proof. He first found a crumpled receipt in the pocket of her coat, a receipt from a high-end restaurant with a date from one of her team dinners. He recognized the name, a place known for its romantic ambiance and expensive wines. It was a small but significant detail, and it was far from her office. The knot in his stomach tightened, but this time it was a feeling of confirmation, not fear. He continued his search and discovered a small gold-flecked coaster tucked away in the back of her bedside drawer. The logo on it was a stylized K, a popular, trendy bar he had seen in the background of a few of Ji-Yoon's recent social media photos. He had always dismissed those photos as harmless, but now he saw the pattern. The bar was in an area of the city she never frequented, a place he now knew was far too close to her colleague's apartment. As he connected the dots, the receipt, the coaster, the lies, he felt a strange and unexpected sense of calm. The details of the betrayal, once a source of paralyzing, undefined fear, were now concrete pieces of a puzzle. Each piece he found, no matter how painful, brought a strange relief. It was like finally finding the source of a terrible noise you've been hearing in the dark. The sound is still there, but now you know what it is, and you can begin to deal with it. It was painful, yes, but it was also a tangible reality he could face head-on. The ghost was gone. In its place was a truth, clear and unforgiving. For the first time in weeks, Min-Jun felt a flicker of hope. Not the naive hope that things would go back to how they were, but a stronger, more resilient kind of hope. It was the hope that he could move past this, that he could rebuild his life, and that this pain, no matter how deep, was not his final destination. The journey was just beginning, but at least now he knew which direction to walk. With the truth laid bare and the path forward illuminated, Min-Jun chose to confront Ji-Yoon, but it wasn't with anger or fiery indignation. Instead, he met her with a quiet, dignified honesty that disarmed her completely. He wasn't there to fight, he was there to end a chapter. He sat her down and, with a calm that belied the turmoil within, he laid out the evidence he had found. It wasn't a dramatic accusation, but a simple, somber statement of fact. The receipt, the coaster, the carefully constructed lies. He presented them all without raising his voice, without a single tear. Ji-Yoon, seeing the unwavering resolve in his eyes, the finality in his tone, finally broke down. The careful facade she had maintained for weeks crumbled. With a heavy sigh and a rush of tears, she confessed everything. She was having an affair with a colleague, a man who, she claimed, offered her an escape from what she had come to perceive as a mundane, predictable life with Min-Jun. The words were a knife to his heart, but they were also a release. The agony of the unknown was over. There were no dramatic screams, no tearful pleas for forgiveness, no ugly arguments. The conversation was somber and conclusive, a quiet dissolution of a love that had already faded. She packed a small bag, her movements a mirror of his own numb state. The door closed, and the silence that followed was different from the one he had endured for weeks. It wasn't the heavy, suffocating silence of suspicion, but a vast, empty silence of a new beginning. Min-Jun sat alone in the quiet apartment, surrounded by the remnants of a life he had believed in. He looked at the empty space where Ji-eun's things had been, and for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel a hollow void. He felt a quiet sense of acceptance. It wasn't happiness, not yet, but it was a calm, a clear-headed understanding of what had to happen. He realized that his grandmother's spicy kimchi wasn't just a dish, it was a powerful metaphor for life's hard truths. Some things are bitter and spicy at first, a shock to the system that can make you want to cry or run away. But in the end, they strip away the illusions, clear the fog, and reveal a strength and a clarity you never knew you had. With a heavy but clear heart, Min-Jun began the process of healing. He knew it would be a long road, filled with grief and difficult days, but he was no longer paralyzed by fear. He was free. He took a deep breath, and as he did, he inhaled the lingering scent of kimchi, a bold reminder that life, even in its most painful moments, is full of powerful, unyielding flavors. A new, authentic chapter of his life was about to begin, and he was ready to face it, one spicy, truthful bite at a time.